Welcome to Dan's sPCMagic Presents, a short course in cyber self-defense. This is intended to be a starting point for anyone who has not taken any time to address personal security, security of bank accounts. They haven't taken time to actually analyze the risk they're taking, and they need a place to start. This is it. We're going to break this down into 4 videos. The first video addresses actions you need to take before the attack. Things like, locking down your accounts, your bank account, your credit card, looking for 2-factor authentication. The second video is going to be things that will mitigate the effect of an attack. This involves more or less just backups and how you back up, what you back up to, and what you do before and after the backup. It's just as important to disconnect the drive when you're done backing up as it is to connect it before you back up. We're going to look at that. In the third video, we're going to look at everyday action, what phone calls to ignore, what emails to ignore, how to identify the emails that need to be ignored. And by the way, Social Security does not call you and tell you if you don't pay a bill via some credit card that you will be arrested immediately. Things that you should do if you are attacked. The thing you should do if you are attacked is follow the actions in the first video, which is the list. Call them, let them know. But we'll go into that in more detail. These are initially, they're going to be overviews. They're going to be for the tech-savvy individual. We will go back with more detail later and show you various bits and pieces of the tools that you'll be using. One that comes to mind right away is KeePass. That's what you're going to keep your list in. And if you think I have something to offer, stick around. If you don't, it'll be an eye-opener, especially if you think you can't be attacked because you don't do banking online. If you think you're invulnerable, you need to watch the first video. That having been said, first video starts right now. Hello and welcome to Dan's sPCMagic, Cybercrime Self-Defense 101. This is part 1. It's an overview for the reasonably tech-savvy individual who wants to try and protect himself or improve his protection posture against the bad guys, people who are willing to steal your money. And apparently they feel good about it because they keep right on doing it. If you think you're impervious to this because, well, I don't do any banking online, okay. Or maybe I don't buy anything online. I don't buy anything on my cell phone. Maybe you want to think again about that. And if this doesn't get your attention, nothing will. In September 2017, Equifax, a credit reporting company, reported 147 million of their records had been exposed to the public, and the public includes the bad guys. That represents about 45% of the U.S. population, almost half. Now, that doesn't mean it was peculiar or explicitly U.S. populace that was involved. It could have been people from Canada, Belize, wherever you happen to be. You could be at risk of this if you have credit. If you have a credit card, you had to apply for it. If you have a home loan, if you have mortgage, if you have a car and you bought it on credit, you had to apply for it. So it had to go through a credit reporting agency. And it appears that they share information back and forth. There are 3 agencies, though, that are involved. And you need to report what's going on to all 3. So it looks as though if you have credit, you are exposed to all 3 of these credit reporting agencies. One of the other ones, that first attack was done by hackers. They hacked in using computers. The second one, no computers were involved in the actual attack. It was done by social engineering. They convinced Experian, this is in August of 2020, they convinced Experian, which is another credit reporting agency, that they were a legitimate business and they were conducting legitimate business items, but they convinced Experian to give them access to 24 million records. It's another 24 million on top of the 147 million. It's only 2 exposures. And we're talking a lot of people. Personally, I look at it and I say, yes, I have been exposed. Like it or not, I have. So, bottom line is, and my point behind all of this is, you do not need a computer to be exposed. In fact, if you don't have one, you're probably at worse risk. So, next thing we're going to look at are goals. The goals here are not to focus on computers, but rather to protect your life, to protect all your assets, regardless of where the exposure exists, and to make it more secure. Some of it will involve computers. Some of it just involves getting a computer, setting up an account, and protecting that account using two-factor authentication. That's one where you type in a password. That's the first factor. The second one is an exchange between you and the agency you're trying to log into. It could be a number that they send you and you have to type it in to get in. That means they know you have possession of your phone. Or it could be a special authenticator application, which is a little more secure. Google has one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But bottom line is we're trying to make you a hard target. That means you're going to be hard to gain access to. It's going to be very difficult for them to impersonate you and take over your credit, build up a lot of debt, and then abscond with the fees or with the proceeds. The second thing we're going to do is prepare you for an attack. Now, if you're under attack, your heart's going to be racing. You're not going to be thinking clearly. You're going to be running around like a chicken with its head cut off saying, what do I do? What do I do? And you pick something and focus on that. It's not the way to do it. What you do is right now, while you have a clear head, we want you to think about what you're doing and what you're going to do and things that need to be done. And we start by preparing a list of people that you have to talk to. So we'll get into that in a little later on. But we're going to prepare you for that attack. And basic assumptions. We assume from this your life is an open book. Everybody knows everything there is to know about you, including how to set up a new credit account and so on and so forth. Run up a lot of credit card debt and then just disappear into the wind, as they say. We want to try and stop that. And there's a lot of things you can do that you probably are not doing now. Some maybe you are. But we're going to try to make it difficult for them, again, so that they turn around and they say, this is just too much trouble. They're a business. They have a return on investment. The investment is the amount of time they spend trying to gain access to your credentials to impersonate you. And then how much money are they going to be able to get out of you? So if they spend a lot of time doing that, it's not very profitable for them. They'll want to move on and go to a lower hanging fruit, something that's easier to attack, someone who's easier to attack. We don't want that to be you. Okay, where do we start? Well, I started by getting a good quality shredder. I used a security level P5 shredder because we have some sensitive documents around here. I don't want them getting out into the public. And it's not just my personal finances. It's other people who can be put at risk if I'm not careful. So I have to be careful. We got a P5. I'm very happy that I did. I got a good quality shredder. It cost me, it was on sale. I think I spent $190 on it. We got it at Office Max. It's a good shredder. It's not exactly P5. It's a little bit better than P5, but it's close enough so where we can call it P5 qualified. You can get a P4 if you're not that concerned about things that come in the mail. I am. I had a P4. I wasn't particularly thrilled with it. If you are careful about how you shred, maybe it'll work. If you put envelopes in long ways first, You got the name, address in shreds of paper, easily matched up, and you can easily put it back together again. P4 it'll take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and turn it into 397 pieces, it says here. Whereas the P5 will turn it into 3,700, almost 4,000 pieces. How would you like to put that jigsaw puzzle back together? And with care and lubrication and proper operation, don't put staples in it. Don't put paper clips in it. I don't care what the manufacturer tells you. Don't put staples in it. Don't put paper clips in it. No metal. And I've had one user, actually a manufacturer, tell me, you shouldn't put windowed envelopes in there either. Apparently there's something about the window that jams up the gears and shortens the life. So if you lubricate it and you take care of it, it should last through 10 years. I lubricate mine every time I empty the basket. So that's enough of that. We will use a computer. You're going to have to get one if you want to thoroughly protect yourself. If you want to even begin to protect yourself, you will need a computer. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Get one that works, and that's about it. You will need to put an antivirus on it. Now, you can get antiviruses free from a number of sources. You can find the effective antiviruses and their efficacy at av-comparatives.org. And if you have a favorite antivirus, and I do, 2 of them, one of them does not show up on AV Comparatives. That doesn't mean it's bad. What it means is they didn't approach AV Comparatives, hand over a sum of money, and say, compare me to the other people, the other vendors. One of which is Malwarebytes. I'm very fond of Malwarebytes. It does a very good job for me. It cleans up a lot of junk on people's computers, probably unwanted programs. It picks up viruses and rootkits and all kinds of malware. It's very good at that. They have a version that goes live, which protects you in real time. They want nominal fees for it. It's not very expensive when you consider what's at risk. There's them, there's Trend Micro, there's Kaspersky, obviously McAfee and Norton. Interesting thing about Norton, one of the VPs, vice presidents, back in, I think it was 2014, went on the record saying that antivirus, endpoint protection is what they called it, endpoint protection. Your antivirus is only about 30 to 35, maybe 40% effective. We're going to go with the number 35. It's only 35% effective, which means 65%, doing the math in my head, 65% of other attacks come from other sources that an antivirus can't cope with. If you click on a link in an email that's contaminated, virus can't check against that. It has no idea. If it stopped you from clicking on links, people would get very upset. They wouldn't be able to function. So we have to have links. And the antivirus can't stop that. And we'll get into that a little further too. But you do need still an antivirus. And like I said before, just because it's not listed in any of the comparatives, there's another comparator out there that compares antiviruses. If it's not listed there, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not listed and nothing more. Don't read anything into it. Again, I like Malwarebytes. It doesn't show up anywhere. As far as being good or bad or compared to others, it's word of mouth that I found out about it. So there you go. Let's move on here. You're going to need to make a list. The list will be kept. You can start with paper, but I don't recommend it because it's one more thing you need to shred. What I suggest is going out and getting a program called KeyPass. And I will address the finer points of KeyPass in a later addenda to this part. Addendum to this part. And first off, it's a very secure program. It's used by Department of Defense in a few places. NASA uses it. deploys AES 256-bit encryption. That's what the United States would prefer people use if they're going to send any sensitive information to them. Beyond that, if it's so sensitive that AES 256 won't handle it, it's called sensitive compartmented information, and it's word of mouth. There's one copy. The files are vigorously protected. You don't photocopy it ever. And if you do photocopy it, it's under strictly controlled circumstances, and many parts of it are redacted. So you get the idea. That's one of the things that AES 256 will not handle, is that kind of information. But everything else, yeah, AES 256 is preferred. KeePass will keep the passwords encrypted throughout the entire process, up to the point where you need to decrypt it so you can put it into a program or into a web page that's asking for authorization to give you access. And it keeps it very well encrypted up to that point. That's another reason I like it, is because it's even encrypted in memory. You don't get much better than that. You can keep other types of information in KeePass, and there are places for, you can put all kinds of just random notes, telephone numbers, contact names, methods, and multiple telephone numbers, just anything you want in the notes. There's also search capabilities. You can refine the search capabilities, and these are things we'll address in the addendum. But for now, I suggest you get KeePass, download it. I use the 2.x version. The 1.x I didn't like, but the 2.x, that's fine for me. It's a professional version. And it's available at keepass.info. And by the way, it's free, but I'm asking, would you please donate something to them? Give them $5. They'll be happy. As for your list that you're going to make in KeePass, it should include, at the very least, bank accounts, complete with telephone contact numbers, and I wouldn't put the account number in unless you put it in someplace that's protected. They have auto-protected, not tags, but files and variables that you can encrypt, and they're treated more or less like passwords as far as encryption in KeePass anyways. Same with credit card accounts. You'll need to have access to that. Again, account name. And by the way, in KeePass, if you put the URL, that http://www thing, it's called a URL. If you put the URL in KeePass, you can click on it and it'll take you right there. And from there, you can automatically type the password. It'll type it in for you, the username and the password. Very handy thing to have. And again, credit card accounts, you can keep phone numbers of places you call in the event that you are hacked. So you've got everything on a list. We're going to print this list out later. I'll get to that later. So you have hard copy in the event of anything. Won't do you much good in a fire, but you can't plan for everything. Or maybe you can. Keep an extra list at home or an extra list in the car, or no, I wouldn't put it in the car. Someplace safe, a safe deposit box. You have to think about what you're doing here too. I just made a mistake. I said in the car. Bad idea. What if the car is stolen? So you have to think about what you're doing. Credit card accounts, trading accounts, that's an interesting one too. You need to check those frequently and make sure that somebody didn't empty it for you and send the check somewhere else. You need to password protect the trading accounts. If they have two-factor authentication, so much the better. Again, we'll talk about 2FA later. Ameritrade, E-Trades, people like that, they frequently will have passwords not only on the account if you call in via telephone, but they'll obviously have passwords on the account if you log in over the internet. So You need that information in there. How do you get a hold of these people in the event that you have been hacked? What do you call each one of them? Ask them, what happens if I'm attacked? Who do I call? And what information do I have to give you? And put that all in KeyPass notes. And you do that for bank accounts, credit card accounts, trading accounts, the registry of deeds. If you happen to have real estate anywhere, you need to check with the registry of deeds frequently and make sure somebody hasn't signed away your rights to the property via a quitclaim deed, taken the money, and absconded with it. Once they're in the wind, man, you have a hard time finding them. You also need to create a socialsecurity.gov account and monitor that for strange activity. If you see income in there that you didn't earn, they probably paid a lot of tax on it, and then they're going to approach IRS later on and say, oh, I'm sorry, I paid you too much, can I have it back? And oddly enough, IRS cuts them a check. I can't explain it, I wouldn't do it, but they do. It's from my point of view, you paid it in, it's free money for me until the end of the year when we settle up. But apparently they do cut checks during the year for overpayments. But that's something you need to do, and nobody ever does it. It's socialsecurity.gov. Create the account. Put a strong password on it. KeyPass will generate strong, unmemorizable passwords for you. Long ones, if you want. It makes it so much more difficult to hack. And that's all done in the KeyPass password generator. If banks are kind of funny, they have not yet, most of them, gotten involved in two-factor authentication above and beyond. No, they just haven't got it. Try and set it up with them. Call them, see if you can do that. If they start asking questions like, what is it? You know they don't know it. At the very least, put a password on the telephone account so that if you call in with your account number, they ask you for a password, and without that password, you don't go anywhere. And that's a good thing. It keeps the bad guys out. If you, some places like Amazon or Google or maybe eBay, I don't know, I don't have an eBay account, but I know that there are accounts. Gmail is good for this. They will ask you for two-factor authentication before you do anything or make any changes to the account. And they have an authenticator application, which is kind of a neat thing. It generates a password on your phone, and you have to tell the recipient, say Amazon, you have to tell Amazon what that code is. And if you don't type it in right, sorry. And you've got a 60-second clock. At the end of 60 seconds, it generates a new password, sends a new password to Amazon, and you have to match that. There's more to it than that, but as far as the user's concerned, that's what you need to do, is give Amazon or Google a 6-digit number that lasts 60 seconds or less. And from there, if it matches, you're good to go. If it doesn't, well, you don't go anywhere. So 6 digits, that's 1,000,000 numbers. If you can go through 1,000,000 numbers, I don't know anybody who can type that fast. I don't know any machine that can do that. But if you can go through 1,000,000 numbers in 60 seconds and get a response out of Google fast enough so that you can try 1,000,000 times, good luck. So it helps to keep the bad guys out. Do that for all your online accounts that you possibly can. They might call it MFA, multi-factor authentication, or two-factor verification. But what you're doing is you're looking for some kind of verification outside of the computer. And in the case of the authenticator applications, it is outside. It goes from a computer to your phone and from your phone back into the computer. So that's where they get this two-factor thing from. I use Google Authenticator. It's a free application. It's supplied by Google. It's available from the Google Play Store. I use it on my Android, and I'm happy with it. You can have multiple accounts on one authenticator. I think I've got 6 or 7 in there now. Um, it's like I said, it's free. They don't even ask for a donation, not that I'm aware of. Now, assuming they do have enough information to gain access to your accounts to set up a credit card, you need to put a freeze on your credit reports. You've heard about freecreditreport.com and people like that. They give you credit reports. Well, they get these credit reports from 3 agencies, and these agencies are credit reporting agencies. One of them is Experian. We talked about that earlier. Oh, I'm sorry, Expedia. I've forgotten what they are. And Equifax is one. TransUnion is another. We'll get to that in a little bit, but you need to go to these 3 agencies and have your credit reports frozen. You'll probably have to set up an account with them so that you can do this. They have information online as to how to do it, and this will prevent anybody from trying to get access to your social security number and things like that from these 3 agencies. It will prevent all financial reporting from these 3 agencies until you have the account thawed. And as I understand it, at least one thaw is permissible at least every year or something like that. You can check with the individual agencies. They will have exact numbers. I don't. But these 3 agencies are the people you need to talk to. And you have to do each individual agency by itself. You can't just contact one and expect all that information to filter down. It doesn't. You have to go to the 3 agencies are TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. TransUnion, all I've done with them is set up a freeze on the account. Experian and Equifax have got, one of them has got more information than the other. I've forgotten which, but they do need to be contacted individually. And there is the contact information. You can go there and they will tell you how to do it, what the ramifications are. Really, there are none, except it slows you down in the event you want a new credit card. And it might make you think about getting a new credit card too. Why do you need it? But those are the 3 agencies you need to talk. Again, you have to contact each one individually. They're not like a group where you contact one and it filters down to the other 2. You have to contact them all. Now, sensitive information on your computer. First things first, I use a program called 7-Zip. Again, it uses a ES256-bit encryption if you tell it to. And you can set it up so that you can encrypt either one single file or a number of files or an entire folder. There's other applications available that will encrypt the entire drive. The only thing whole drive encryption is good for is if somebody breaks into your office and they steal your computer, or they steal an external hard drive that you have sensitive information on. It may work there, but once the operating system opens that drive or opens your computer, everything on it is vulnerable. So don't plan on using that and saying, yes, I'm protected, I have whole drive encryption, because it has uses. I won't say it's useless, but it's not a panacea. It's not going to protect you against everything. So you need to look at encrypting either a single file or folders or the entire drive. You get to set the password. You get to tell it to encrypt. If you just want to use 7-Zip to package something and send it all as one big file, that's fine too. It'll do that. And that's just the standard zip operation. But 7-Zip, you can tell it to encrypt it and require a password for decryption. Again, keep those passwords in KeePass. I believe there is a command that can be set up that you click on the command and it will unzip everything for you, put it where it's supposed to be, and that's going way overboard. You probably won't need that much protection, but if you're organized, let's say you're an accountant and you have different clients. Each client sends you a number of different files, and at the end of the day, when you're through working on his account, you have a folder with all of his information in it, just his. You can encrypt the entire folder, get it all done and out of the way, and protect it all with a single password. And please don't reuse passwords. It's a bad idea. If anybody gets hold of that one password that you're using for everything, they own your life. That's bad. Files on external drives, yeah, we kind of talked about that, but what you need to do is, again, encrypt the folders or files using 7-zip or something similar. Again, 7-zip is free, and please send them a donation. They work hard at this, and they have to maintain servers for you to be able to download this. It needs to be supported, so when people find a bug in it, they report the bug and it gets fixed, and then you have to upload it to the server. But internet access costs money, servers cost money, someone hosting your file costs money. If you send them $1, they're going to be more than happy. It's $1 they wouldn't have had otherwise. Send them 5, and now you're getting up to the point where if everybody sent them $5, they would be happy campers. And it's only $5. You spend that much on a coffee at Starbucks. So let's move on. Oh no, let's not move on. One thing you need to keep in mind is your drive has to be disconnected when it's not actively being used. So if you have a drive you use to back things up, I do. I back them up twice a week. I plug in the drive when I'm ready to use it. I back up to the drive, and then when I'm done, I unplug it. Doing this, that protects the drive from being encrypted by someone who wants to hold your files for ransom. There are people who not only do that, but they also extort money out of you and tell you, well, if you're not going to pay me to get your files back, do this. I'm going to release the files to the general public if you don't pay me. Extortion. So now we've graduated from ransomware into extortionware. And this is not new. It's been going on for a while. It's just that not many of the consumers know that it exists. And it's put you in a very bad position. So it's best to, again, encrypt every file that needs to be encrypted. External hard drives, you need to decrypt or need to disconnect them from the computer, physically disconnect them if you're not immediately transferring information to them or from them. And this has other effects at protecting you too. We'll get into that on a different video. Moving on, where are we going? Insurance. Very affordable insurance is available on your homeowner's policy, maybe your business insurance policy, your renter's insurance policy. In my case, it cost me $25 a year. And what they do is if somebody steals my identity, they will work to get it back. Now, there's going to be different limitations on how much money they spend getting it back. They will not reimburse you for any financial losses in my case, but they will work to get my ID back. And if we shut down this operation soon enough, we should be able to minimize the losses, the financial losses that happen if somebody does steal your ID. But their job is to get your ID back. Once you do that, you have physically shut down the operation. And now all you have to do is deal with the aftermath, the money that they stole, and gee, can you get it back? Is somebody else going to be responsible for it? Yada, yada. And while I think of it, back to the shredder, I'm jumping around here. I apologize, but this is kind of important. I had a business associate at one point in time, a colleague, who worked in California, left California, closed his bank accounts, threw away his unused checks. And after he had been in Pennsylvania, up in Philadelphia for 7 or 8 years, he got a notice from the bank that he had closed the account, that he was suddenly overdrawn. And the bottom line was somebody had found one of those old checks, cashed it. Whoever he cashed it with accepted the signature and said, yes, it's fine. The bank then accepted the signature and said, yes, it's fine, and made good on the check. Well, they didn't bother to check and see if the account was closed. Item one, it was a forgery, so the bank accepted a forged check. That puts it on the bank, but they're never going to admit that, because that means once they admit it, they're liable. Well, they're liable anyways, but they tried to make him pay for it. So take your unused checks. If you have an account that's closed, or you have checks lying around that for whatever reason they're no longer useful, shred them. Put them through the shredder. Again, a P5 shredder. And again, I apologize for that. It just came to me, and I knew I had to get it out there. But let's see. Check with your homeowner's and renter's insurance provider to see if you can buy insurance. In addition, if you happen to have a business, if you're a sole proprietor, maybe it's a hobby business, you need to go to your state or Commonwealth in my case. The Commonwealth allowed me to start my own LLC. You probably do not want a partnership. Maybe you do. If it's lucrative enough, you may want to put your spouse's name on there, but that complicates tax reporting. Check with your accountant and find out what the ramifications are, but it cost me, I think I spent $120 or $125 to file for Dan's PC Repair, LLC. And it was another $60 to do business as Dan's sPCMagic. If I'd gotten the whole thing right the first time, it would have been $120. I'm done. And that's good for 5 or 10 years, something like that. It's not every year, so it's reasonably affordable. It's either $12 or $24 a year, depending on how your state works. A PLLC is a little more expensive, as I understand it, but you're going to have to check with your accountant and legal counsel. And I suggest you get legal counsel on both of those. You're a company. You can afford $25. Let's see. Finally, once you've got all this information in your KeyPass then allows you to print it and make a hard copy, and it will decrypt all of your encrypted passwords, all of your encrypted tags and edits and notes and things like that. Anything that's encrypted will be decrypted, and it will show you on this piece of paper all that sensitive information. You need to keep it safe, and you need to have it, because if the computer dies, that's the only way in. That's the only way into your files and into your bank, into your trading accounts. That contains all the information. Without it, it's going to be a nightmare trying to get into those accounts. So you do need to print that list. And that's it for the short course. Please subscribe to the short course. There should be a link underneath this video. Subscribe to the short course. I'm going to provide more videos, addenda, that sort of thing. And next thing we're going to do is I've got to look at what you do to protect files on your computer, backups. That should be a short video. And there's more down the road, and as we went through in the introduction to this course. Again, don't forget to like us, subscribe, and have a wonderful day.